Good afternoon, evening. It is Wednesday, the middle of the week, and I hope that everybody has had a good week so far. I know a lot of us here in Florida and in the South been dealing with this tropical storm slash hurricane. It can't make up its mind what it wants to do. Thankfully, nothing too bad happened here, and we're definitely praying for those who are been harder hit and affected by these storms, and definitely praying for safety. But other than that, I hope that everybody's been having a good week, and looking forward to getting together for some Bible study and praise to God tonight. But this afternoon, with it being Wednesday and wanting to continue on Wednesdays and try to pick out a character from the Bible, whether good or bad, male or female, young, old, whoever it may be. But to pick somebody and just to look what is revealed about them in their life in scriptures, as that is why we have all of these examples recorded for us in scriptures, is to learn from them. Learn from their bad choices, learn from their mistakes, learn from their faith, from their courage, their love, their holiness, their devotion to God, or sometimes lack thereof. Whatever the case is, there's a lot for us to learn and to remember and apply to our own lives. And tonight I want to talk about a man by the name of Demas. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe not. He's actually not maybe a very well-known character in the Bible that a lot of us may remember. He's actually mentioned a few times. If we are to understand, this is in fact the same person mentioned each time. But Demas is a man, a Christian, brother in Christ. In the early days of the church, we find him in the New Testament. Paul, the Apostle Paul, actually mentions him a couple times in about his apparently his help in working and laboring in the gospel. There's one place in Colossians chapter 4 and verse 14 where Paul gives greetings to the brethren from Demas and from Luke and others, and but he's mentioned there just in sending greetings, but grouped together with those fellow workers. And then in Philemon, in verse 24, Demas is again mentioned there and mentioned as a fellow laborer. And so Demas was one who was definitely helping in the work of the gospel in the early church and helping the Christians and traveling and working with Paul and Luke and Mark and Aristarchus and Epaphras and others, and a lot of names mentioned there. So things were going well. Demas was in there doing his part, doing his share, doing what he could, and was a help in the work and labors. But sadly, the final note that we have on Demas is actually mentioned, and probably one, if you have heard of Demas, this is probably one you may be more familiar with, and that's in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and in verse 10. When Paul had been writing to Timothy, this is the second letter that Paul wrote to Timothy that we have recorded. And in 2 Timothy chapter 4, if you look in verse 10, when Paul is sort of giving some final notes, instructions, and in this section, beginning to talk about, those who, have helped Paul, those who have discouraged Paul. And what we find Demas mentioned, and this is what is said when Paul tells Timothy in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 9, and he tells Timothy, "Be diligent to come to me quickly," Paul says. And then he explains by saying in verse 10, "For Demas," this is the first one he mentions, and what we'll focus on tonight, "For Demas has forsaken me, having loved this present world, and has departed for Thessalonica." Paul would then go on to mention some others and their travels and so on and so forth. Many others mentioned there, and also some who had done him wrong. But here what is said of Demas, after those two times in Colossians and Philemon, and Paul mentioning the help and the work and the partnership of Demas. Well, now, the note we have on Demas is that Demas had forsaken Paul. And the reason given by Paul is that Demas loved this present world. Now, in doing a little bit of research on this and kind of trying to understand maybe what this meant more fully, there's sort of some disagreement by some as to what exactly this means. We take the phrase having loved this present world, and some have come to understand it a little bit differently. One way of looking at this, of having loved this present world, is just the constant temptation of sin, the constant temptation of the pleasures of this world rather than the pleasures of God, whether it be sinful pleasures or money or wealth or whatever the case may be. As we're taught not to love the world or the things of the world, talking about, sinful things. Some, though, take it another way, and maybe that, this phrase, having loved this present world, some say maybe it was that, in their works and efforts as Christians and ministers, that things were getting dangerous, things were getting scary, things were getting tough, and Demas he had had enough. Maybe he got to the point that in saying that he loved this present world, just would maybe a reference to the fact that he was unwilling to risk his life. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to take chances. He didn't want to, bear that burden of, preaching the gospel anymore. He maybe wanted to, just try to get in good with the Jews again, and so he wasn't under so much pressure and persecution. Okay, maybe either of those apply, maybe both of those apply. I mean, I can't sit here and say for sure one way or the other. We're really not told. There's no further explanation. But really, at the end of the day, either way you look at it is not good, right? I mean, even if it was Demas, was attracted by the pleasures of the world and kind of, got tired of keeping himself from the pleasures of the world, that's not good. Or if it was that Demas was just unwilling now to, confess Christ and risk his life anymore, well, that's not good either. Either way, Demas seems here to have given up. He had for Paul to say he has forsaken me, that wasn't Paul, just saying, oh, well, Demas, he kind of left for a while, he took a break, or, he had some things to do. I mean, for Paul to choose the word forsaken and then say he loved this present world, that doesn't sound good to me. Now, again, I can't say for sure what was in Demas's heart or mind exactly, but anyway, something got to him, and he let it get in the way. He let it change his life, really. Now, did he give up faith in Jesus? Did he go back into sin? Did he go back into Judaism? How far did he go? Well, really, again, we're not told anymore. There's nothing else said. Did Demas, hopefully, Demas came around. Maybe one day in the future, maybe Demas repented of this. Maybe he, realized that, he was wrong, and, I don't know. Maybe he ended up coming back. We just really don't know. But I think what we see here in Demas is just another example of how a Christian, how someone can be doing well, even, helping and doing their part, and things are going well, but then something in their life, something in this world, either catches their attraction, their attention, or scares them away, or whatever the case may be. And it shows us that it can happen. And the lesson I think that we can get from this today, from Demas, is that, if I'm going along and I'm doing well, we got to, as Paul said, let him who thinks he stand take heed lest he fall. We got to make sure that we don't become like Demas. What is there in this world that is attracting us or tempting us or trying to distract us or dissuade us from, living the life that God has called us to live. We've got to make sure that it won't be said of us that we have forsaken Christ because we love this present world, whatever that may be. And so what Demas reminds us and shows us, unfortunately, Demas leaves us with a negative example, but one to learn from, that I don't want to end up like Demas. Again, hopefully he turned his life around. That is our hope and would be our prayer for anybody, that forsook the Lord or forsook his church and, because they love this present world. But I've got to keep an eye on myself to make sure that there's nothing that is going to cause me to go astray from the Lord or forsake the Lord or the life that he has called me to live or the people that he has called me to serve and help. And so let's learn from this. Let's learn from Demas. And let's not make the same choices or mistakes that he did. Let's be faithful to the Lord. Let's be diligent. Let's not grow weary in doing good. And let's not be ashamed of the gospel, knowing that it is the power of God unto salvation for all who believe. No matter what the world does, no matter what temptations are out there, no matter what persecutions may come, stand strong, stand fast, be faithful, encourage one another, and pray for one another. And let's be faithful to the Lord until we can finally be with God in heaven. God bless you. Take care.